The AI paradox. Who buys the stuff when nobody has a job? The factory lights are on, but almost nobody's inside. Conveyor belts hum. At the supermarket, where kiosks blink, where two cashiers used to stand. A CEO whispers in a boardroom, if AI takes the jobs, who's buying the AI stuff? That's the crack. Incomes vanish. Demand thins. Profits stare at empty carts. Capitalism runs on a loop. Wages create customers who create profits. Break wages, break customers. Three fixes look obvious. One of them breaks the game we're playing. Watch for the tell. When output soars but Tuesday diners are empty, the system is starving itself. We'll follow real people, data, and the redesign that might keep markets alive. To see the fracture, we go back to when efficiency met paychecks. The engine that fed itself, wages demand profits. Start with a simple rhythm. You work, you get paid, you spend. Your spending becomes someone else's income. Businesses see the cash flow and invest, machines, stores, training. Investment creates jobs, and the rhythm loops back. When it works, it feels invisible, like air. When it falters, you hear it, quiet malls, help-wanted signs that mean fewer hours, not better pay. Henry Ford made that rhythm explicit in 1914. $5 a day, double the going rate. It wasn't charity. Ford needed reliable workers on brutal assembly lines, but he also wanted buyers. Pay the man building the car enough to buy the car. It landed like a dare to every competitor. Pay more, sell more. That single wage decision helped anchor a wider idea. Mass production only scales with mass consumption. After World War II, the loop roared. Productivity climbed. Unions bargained. Wages tracked output. One paycheck often fed a family, a mortgage, a vacation, and a college savings jar. The GI Bill pushed education. Highways stitched cities to suburbs. Sears catalogs promised a middle-class life, and Friday paydays turned into Saturday sidewalks thick with shoppers. Factories buzzed. Downtown diners rang up coffee after coffee. The loop was local and loud. Earn here, spend here, grow here. Meanwhile, the corporate side followed the music. Demand was obvious in balance sheets. If you could make 10% more stuff, and there were customers with rising incomes, you expanded capacity. New machines didn't replace workers so much as amplify them. The same crew with better tooling hit higher throughput and took home raises funded by that extra output. It wasn't frictionless, but the averages moved in the same direction. Productivity up, wages up, demand up, profits up. The engine fed itself. Then the beat slipped. In the 1970s, energy shocks and inflation flooded the system with noise. Prices jumped in unpredictable ways. Bargaining turned into trench warfare. Offshoring offered a tempting release valve. Cheaper labor, new supply chains, rising corporate margins. The old harmony between local wages and local demand started to detune. Your job could move across an ocean. Your bargaining power could evaporate in a memo. Households adapted. A second income joined the first, two paychecks replacing one. Credit cards spread, at first as convenience, then as a buffer. Home values rose, and paper wealth softened the fear that wages weren't keeping pace. Refinance the house, patch the budget, keep the loop going. Malls thrived on that confidence. A Friday in a factory town still meant busy parking lots and a movie line curling past the theater doors. But look closer. The prosperity leaned on leverage. The rhythm hadn't disappeared. It was overdraft. In a small mill town, you could feel it in the way people timed their lives. Payday meant the grocery run, the new sneakers, the oil change you delayed. The diner ran a lunch special aligned with shift breaks. The barber opened early on Saturdays because that's when overtime hit. A single company payroll flowed through every register. If that payroll dipped, the echo hit every storefront within a week. Meanwhile, the mall told a parallel story. Anchor stores boomed, then quietly trimmed staff. Seasonal hires replaced full-time roles. In back offices, software crept in as a helpful assistant, inventory management, point-of-sale analytics, just-in-time delivery. It felt like modernization, and it was. But tucked inside was a new logic. Do more with fewer people, and keep the savings. Here's where the narrative turns. Technology didn't crash the loop. It rewired the incentives inside it. A spreadsheet could detect waste faster than a floor manager. Barcodes and scanners shaved seconds off each customer. Early automation didn't erase the job. It chipped away at tasks. But once you could do 10% more with the same staff, The pressure to do 20% more with fewer staff followed. The engine kept feeding itself, but fewer hands touched the food. This matters because the loop, wages to demand to profits, depends on broad paychecks, not narrow ones. If the gains from efficiency concentrate, the spending base narrows. Asset owners can buy only so many refrigerators, cars, or streaming subscriptions. The middle drives volume. Without the middle, you can build a brilliant product and still wait for customers who never show. By the late 1990s and 2000s, the coping mechanisms turned into a way of life. Extract a home equity line to cover medical bills. Use a card for the gap between rent and groceries. Ride the asset boom in stocks and housing as a proxy for wage growth you didn't see on your pay stub. Then 2008 snapped the illusion. When credit seized, the loop showed its bare mechanics. Without income, demand falls. Without demand, investment turns to dust. The fix, massive stimulus, proved something else too. Money can restart the loop, but it's a jumpstart, not a new engine. The lesson from this first chapter isn't nostalgia. It's a baseline. Capitalism scales when pay and productivity move together. People become customers, and customers sustain profit. The moment you sever that tie, by offshoring, by weakening bargaining power, or by quietly letting software eat tasks without sharing the gains, you weaken the demand side that justifies tomorrow's investment. Then tech arrived with a different promise: profits without people. It sounded efficient. It still does. But efficiency changes the music if the audience can't afford the ticket. And that's where the next act begins. The automation ratchet. Profits rise, paychecks stall. Walk a midnight shift in an auto plant after the retool. Weld sparks fly, but it's arms on rails tossing doors, not people. Industrial robots excel at predictable, repeatable work: spot welds, paint spray, pick and place on pallets. The first promise is safety and consistency. The second is uptime. A robot doesn't ask for weekends. Once the capital clears the floor, output climbs with fewer heads on the payroll. The spreadsheet smiles. The town doesn't. Logistics followed. Conveyor belts learned to see. Scanners tracked every box. Autonomous tugs pulled trailers through warehouses, mapping routes to avoid traffic like a city in miniature. The language changed from headcount to throughput, from crews to cells. Small teams supervised fleets of machines that didn't take breaks, didn't file grievances, and could be redeployed with software updates. The savings were real. So was the missing overtime that used to pay for braces and brake pads. Meanwhile, software slid into services with a quiet certainty. Bank tellers gave way to ATMs, then to apps. Clerks disappeared behind self-serve portals. Call centers learned to triage with scripts that guessed why you were calling before you spoke. Back offices digitized forms, then digitized decisions. If this, route here. If that, auto-approve. Whole floors of file cabinets condensed to a server closet. The building looked modern. The payroll looked light. As software scaled, a new corporate species dominated the indexes: the superstar firm. Network effects and near-zero marginal cost let one platform serve hundreds of millions with headcount that barely budged. More users didn't mean more branches or more staff. It meant more servers. Revenue per employee shot up. So did market power. In a winner-take-most market, the gains concentrate with the winner. Suppliers and workers negotiate against a platform that can replace them with an API. You can see it in national accounts as the labor share of income drifts down and the capital share creeps up. Productivity doesn't vanish, it migrates. The puzzle isn't whether machines raise output, they do. It's who captures the extra. When the answer is shareholders first and workers last, the loop from wages to demand thins. Profits rise into buybacks, paychecks stall into side gigs. Here's the ratchet. Once a task is automated, it rarely returns to human hands at the old wage. The plant doesn't unbuy the robot arm when the economy rebounds. The warehouse doesn't rip out scanners to rehire runners. Even if headcount grows later, it grows around machines, not instead of them. Job descriptions shift from doers to overseers, from many to few. The ladder narrows, and rungs vanish in the middle. Skills hollow out along that ladder. On one end, high-paid systems engineers and integrators stitch hardware to software. On the other, low-paid roles handle exceptions, cleaning the aisle the robot can't navigate, sorting the 5% of packages the vision system misreads. In between, the stable, mid-wage positions that anchored communities get shaved into tasks, then parceled to code. A machinist in his 40s feels this more than any chart. One spring, he trains on a CNC that triples precision and halves scrap. The raise never arrives because the machine paid for itself through savings. A year later, management outsources high-mix parts and assigns him to quality checks on a line that barely needs them. He takes a night course in C80 to move up. The job posting goes to a contractor 2 states away who logs in. Remotely, he retrains again, this time in maintenance, because machines still break. The hours return, the pay doesn't. The mortgage adjusts to the new reality, a permanent almost that used to be overtime. Superstar dynamics amplify his story. When a few firms set standards, they set wages down the chain. A big box retailer deploys self-checkout at scale. Suppliers follow with smaller teams and tighter margins. A global shipper retools a hub with autonomy. Regional carriers adopt similar software or lose the contract. The technology diffuses, the bargaining power doesn't. The numbers incentivize the ratchet. Capital is expensed once. Labor compounds every pay period. Tax codes often favor equipment over payroll. Boards see a choice between a variable cost that argues every year and a fixed asset that pays for itself faster as volumes grow. Even well-meaning managers drift toward the machine because the quarterly argument is easier to win when the line never calls in sick. And yet, the same dashboards that celebrate cost per unit gains don't show the missing demand downstream. The plant's output per hour looks heroic. The diner across the road closes Mondays because the breakfast rush evaporated when the second shift was trimmed. This is the blind spot automation rarely models. The buyer side isn't a line item in your factory. It's the town. Critics say, we've seen this movie. New jobs appear. They're partly right. New roles do emerge. Programmers for the robot fleet, analysts for the dashboards, compliance for the data. But the arithmetic has shifted. You don't replace 100 assemblers with 100 programmers. You replace them with 10 systems people and a service contract. The rest become shoppers with less income, in an economy that just accelerated its need for those shoppers. So profits rise and paychecks stall. The ratchet clicks forward, one task at a time, one role at a time, until the structure of demand changes without a single headline announcing it. That's the setup for what comes next. Systems that don't just automate doing, but start to automate deciding. The AI shift, from tasks to decisions. Here's where the story tilts. Foundation models don't just move boxes, they move choices. A prompt becomes code scaffolding that used to take a junior team a week. A rough brief turns into 3 legal drafts, each flagged with precedent links. A napkin sketch morphs into design comps with consistent typography and a color system that fits the brand guide. The machine isn't on the line, it's at the meeting. White-collar exposure shows up in the middle: documentation, analysis, templated writing, standard contracts, cost models, bug triage. The stuff managers once gave to new hires as training is now the first thing a model can do well. When entry work compresses to minutes, the ladder loses its bottom rungs. You need fewer rookies, and the seniors who remain spend more time verifying than creating from scratch. Inside a software company, the 2080ths problem appears in a sprint report. 2 engineers with strong prompting habits ship a feature in 3 days that used to take 8 devs 2 weeks. They use AI to generate boilerplate, suggest tests, and map edge cases. The review is still human, the architecture still human, but the throughput per head jumps. Their manager learns a new rule of thumb. One small, AI-augmented team can outperform a larger, traditional one. Staffing plans shrink without a memo about layoffs. An ad agency tests a new workflow. The strategist prompts mood boards and campaign lines, then iterates with a designer who refines lighting and motion. A junior copy bench that wrote 6 versions of a headline is now 2 people curating and stress testing 50 options. Client meetings pivot from "we'll come back next week" to "here are 3 directions now." The agency bills for outcomes, not hours, and quietly reduces the intern pipeline because there's less grunt work to justify it. In a support center, chat triage shifts from scripts to models. Tickets route with context. The bot resolves the top quartile outright and drafts answers for the next half. Human reps handle the hard cases and escalation. Customers get faster responses. The center hits response time targets with a smaller roster. Night shifts shrink. The overtime that made rent disappears, even as satisfaction scores rise. Fintech underwriting offers a sharper example. Models pull signals from text, bank transaction patterns, and industry filings, then propose risk tiers with rationale. The old workflow needed analysts to build the case file. The new one needs analysts to challenge the model and sign off. Throughput jumps. Loss rates improve. The firm books more loans per person and still posts lower staffing budgets because the marginal loan no longer demands a marginal analyst. Across these stories, the pattern holds. Higher output per worker, fewer workers per unit of output. It's a lever on managerial judgment, a speed boost on standard decisions, and a blunt shock to entry-level roles. Your resume used to sell potential. Now your job sells verification. That's less about romance and more about math. If AI handles the first 70% of a task, the remaining 30% is where the value sits, and that portion doesn't scale to whole teams. The change is cultural too. Meetings shorten because draft quality improves. The Monday morning blank page becomes Sunday night version 3. Senior staff evolve into editors and integrators. Juniors become scarce, but the ones who land a seat learn faster. They ride shotgun on decisions that used to be filtered through layers. The promotion path looks narrower and steeper. The payroll looks lighter again. Critics ask whether quality slips. It can. Hallucinations, overconfident reasoning, legal traps, none of that vanished. But firms adapt. They add guardrails, retrieval systems, model committees, red team drills. They push sensitive work to specialized tools and keep human sign-off where liabilities live. Every control tightens the loop between a few people and a lot of output. This is how judgment gets automated, not by removing humans, but by reducing how many you need to keep risk acceptable. Education feels the aftershock. If the first job is fewer heads and more verification, schools that train for process and repetition lag. Programs pivot to domain depth, systems thinking, applied ethics, data literacy, and prompt craft. Placement offices hear a new refrain from employers. Send us 5 who can learn anything, not 20 who need a manual. That's polite code for, we don't have the desk space. On a hospital floor, a resident uses an AI assistant to summarize overnight notes, flag lab anomalies, and draft discharge instructions in 5 languages. It doesn't replace the physician's judgment, it narrows attention. The unit clears more cases with the same beds. Billing improves because the notes are cleaner. Administration asks whether the night team needs the same staffing next quarter. The spreadsheet answers before anyone does. Zoom out, and the question that opened the boardroom comes back into frame. If we can multiply output and trim headcount in service firms, agencies, law offices, banks, clinics, and software shops, we've built a supply engine that expects a buyer at the other end. But the buyer is a paycheck, and the paycheck belongs to the very roles we just compressed. So the accomplishment carries its own warning. Efficiency raised the ceiling, it also thinned the floor. The models handle the first draft of decisions. Humans handle the last draft. The market handles the consequence, a rising tide of output looking for wallets that don't rise with it. If incomes erode, who buys the output that AI multiplies? That's not a rhetorical flourish. It's the next constraint. The demand paradox. Efficiency kills its customer. Walk through a warehouse where AI routes every picker and a single supervisor watches dashboards. The output looks heroic. Then step into the strip mall across the road at 3 p.m. Empty booths, a nail salon with 1 chair filled, a payday lender open late. The paradox lives in that contrast. When wages thin out, the buyer base does too. You can ship more boxes per hour. You just can't assume the town can pay for them. The macro math isn't complicated. Aggregate demand is mostly paychecks. If the wage mass shrinks relative to output, the economy leans on fewer wallets to clear more goods and services. Inventories swell. Discounts follow. Managers call it promotional intensity. But promotions don't fix missing income. A 20% sale brings in bargain hunters who still have some room on their cards. It doesn't conjure purchases from people who lost overtime, or a shift, or the whole role. Executives try the playbook anyway. They cut prices, bundle, add loyalty tiers. Margins wobble, but volumes don't rebound because price elasticities aren't infinite when accounts are near zero. Meanwhile, asset owners spend more, but that spending is narrow. A billionaire can't eat 1,000 dinners. They can finance moonshots and buy second homes, but day-to-day consumption, the stuff that keeps storefronts alive, depends on millions of ordinary budgets. Concentrate income, and you concentrate purchasing. The long tail of shoppers that makes capitalism hum gets clipped. So the economy reaches for a bridge, debt. Buy now, pay later at checkout makes small luxuries feel possible again. Credit cards stretch groceries across pay cycles. Auto lenders extend terms from 60 to 72, then 84 months. The bridge works briefly. Demand lifts. Retailers cheer a quarter that looks healthy. Then the bill comes due. Servicing costs rise with interest rates. Minimum payments creep. Lines of credit choke off precisely when households need cushion. You see the cliff in little ways first. Missed utilities, then a car payment, then rent. A landlord raises late fees because they can. A bank tightens underwriting because charge-offs tick up. The BNPL app reroutes you to a lower limit. Retailers front-load promotions to move inventory and find that customers show up, but buy less per basket. The inventory overhang clears slowly, and only by sacrificing the margin they counted on to cover fixed costs. A family in a logistics town narrates it without charts. When the night shift went away, the second job she used to do on weekends became the first. The budget turned into triumph. They canceled one streaming service, then two. Groceries shifted to store brands. The kids' sneakers waited another month. A dentist appointment got rescheduled. When the credit card statement arrived, they made the minimum and promised to make it right next month. Next month looked the same. Firms sense the new reality and retool their offers around it. Smaller package sizes at the same sticker, shrinkflation, mask a price per ounce hike. Subscriptions slice features into $4.99 tiers that feel painless alone and heavy together. Free layers backed by ads and data extraction keep people inside ecosystems without charging the front door. It sustains usage metrics. It doesn't rebuild income. The market adapts to a poorer customer by designing for a poorer customer. At the macro level, policymakers stare at a familiar dashboard and argue over signs. GDP grows, but unevenly. Employment prints look fine until you notice the mix. More part-time, fewer hours, more self-employment that reads like necessity. Inflation cools, then flares in pockets where supply is tight: housing, healthcare, childcare, leaving less for everything else. The paradox hardens. Efficiency lowers unit costs, but the gains don't cycle back to wages widely enough to pull demand. Here's the kicker. The supply engine keeps improving because the incentives are clear. Every efficiency gain is bankable on the cost line. The demand engine weakens because its feedstock, broad incomes, erodes quietly, firm by firm. No single company feels responsible for the aggregate consequence. Each did the rational thing in isolation. Together, they skate toward a thinner market and a more fragile floor. Optimists say new jobs will appear and refill the wallets. Maybe. That's the next argument. But the timing matters as much as the headline. If job creation lags adoption, if the new roles cluster in a handful of hubs, if pay bands don't match the lost middle, the bridge from today's demand to tomorrow's stalls. By the time the new categories scale, the old buyer base has frayed. So we're left with a simple, uncomfortable question. If efficiency keeps raising output, while the wage mass feeding demand thins, who clears the shelves? You can't coupon your way out of a missing paycheck. You can't upsell a customer who stopped coming in. Some insist the market will invent work fast enough. Others say firms must design for customers with less money. The next act tests both claims. The new jobs will save us argument and its limits. The counterstory sounds familiar. We've been here before. Tractors crushed farm labor. Factories absorbed it. Automation hit assembly lines. Services soaked it up. Each wave destroyed roles, but created new ones, often better paid. That's the comfort. The risk is assuming the rhythm repeats on the same timeline, with the same geography, and with the same paycheck at the end. Start with the historical pattern. In 1900, a third of workers farmed. By the mid-20th century, single-digit percentages fed the nation. Manufacturing rose as the absorber, a ladder with training on the job, wages that could support a family, and clear progression. When manufacturing shed workers, services grew: healthcare, education, retail, hospitality, business support. The system flexed because demand kept expanding, and the new sectors needed people in volume. Time, that's the hidden ingredient. Transitions played out over decades, with unions, public schools, and GI-era investments cushioning the landing. Tech optimists say AI will rhyme, not repeat. They point to new categories: prompt engineers, model evaluators, AI safety and compliance, orchestration roles that stitch tools into workflows, domain experts paired with co-pilots who turn expertise into code. They add creative fields reshaped, not removed, curators, editors, producers who can do more with less. Entrepreneurship should expand because barriers fall. All true in pockets. The question isn't whether new jobs appear. It's the speed, the scale, and the pay. Speed first. Adoption curves for software move faster than physical technologies. Cloud distribution pushes updates overnight. Once a workflow proves its edge, competitors copy quickly. Job destruction can be front-loaded, roles compressed in quarters, while job creation trails behind as companies figure out what, exactly, the new roles should be. That lag is where households fall. A quarter without overtime turns into a year without a raise, then a career that never recovers the old baseline. Scale next. New technical roles don't absorb labor one-to-one. A single AI platform can serve thousands of firms with a small core team and a distributed ecosystem of contractors. Orchestration roles inside companies scale like leverage, not headcount. If 10 specialists can deploy capabilities across 1,000 employees, you may not need 1,000 employees. The magic trick of leverage is also the limit of absorption. Then pay. Many of the new roles are high skill, high wage at the top and low wage at the bottom. The middle compresses. A handful of staff engineers, product managers, clinical specialists with tooling and compliance leads do well. Below them, taskifying spreads, content moderation, data labeling, QA triage, gig-style exception handling. If the median of new work pays less than the median of the lost work, aggregate demand doesn't recover even if headcount does. Geography sharpens the edge. Gains cluster in hubs, San Francisco, Seattle, New York, London, a few university towns, where capital, talent, and customers collide. Costs decline elsewhere, but the benefits don't anchor there as quickly. A county that lost a distribution shift won't sprout AI orchestration roles next month. Remote work helps, but top-tier firms still concentrate hiring near networks they trust. The result, a few zip codes glow while many go dim. Access matters too. Training pipelines lag. Community colleges and boot camps move faster than four-year curricula, but not at cloud speed. Firms want provable skill now. Workers need income while they retrain. Scholarships and online courses help the motivated. They don't solve childcare, commuting, or the opportunity cost of stepping back. The skills mismatch is structural. The jobs that vanish are often the ones with the simplest gateways. The jobs that appear demand depth, credentials, or a portfolio that takes time to build. Elasticity is the test. Can new job categories expand cheaply and quickly enough to absorb millions at wages that sustain spending? Early signs say no. Companies brag about efficiency, not headcount growth. Do more with less is a mantra, not a phase. Productivity gains accrue without proportional hiring because models multiply individuals. That's good for margins and good for price tags sometimes, but thin for the wage mass the economy relies on. Optimists at a final point, new desires emerge. Immersive entertainment, personalized education, longevity science, climate restoration, frontiers that need people. True, but these sectors are capital-intensive, regulated, and slower to scale jobs than software that replaces them. And when they do scale, they'll use the same AI leverage that trims headcount elsewhere. Meanwhile, firms aren't waiting for salvation. They're designing for customers with less money, smaller packs, ad-subsidized tiers, micro-subscriptions, games and lotteries as revenue engines. That's a tell. If new jobs, save us, were around the corner, you wouldn't rebuild your business for a poorer buyer. So the argument resolves like this. Yes, new jobs will appear. No, they won't arrive fast enough, broad enough, or well-paid enough to restore the demand base on their own. Without deliberate design, training that pays, portable benefits, income floors that stabilize spending, the market optimizes for efficiency and leaves buyers behind. While we wait for the next wave of work, companies pivot to serve a thinner wallet. And that pivot becomes the business model of an era. The low-income business model, when consumers get poor. When firms accept that wallets are thinner, they don't pause. They pivot. Walk into a dollar format store on a Tuesday morning. The parking lot's full because payday cycles no longer anchor shopping. People come when the card clears. Inside, unit sizes shrink. 12-ounce cereal replaces the old pound box. The sticker price stays friendly. the cost per ounce quietly climbs. It works because it meets the new math of the household, small cash outlays, even if the long run is worse. Shrinkflation spreads beyond groceries. A family-sized detergent bottle turns into a curved plastic illusion, less liquid inside, same shelf space. The label adds concentrated, which might be true, but the purpose is clear. Keep the price point stable as budgets wobble. Businesses start to think in thresholds, not value. What can clear at $4.99, at $9.99, at $19.99? The goal isn't abundance, it's survivable decisions. Subscriptions fill the gaps. Instead of one $300 suite, you get 5 micro-subscriptions at $3.99 each tied to a single feature that used to be bundled. Users hold on because canceling one tool breaks a workflow, or a school login, or a kid's game with sunk time. In aggregate, the small becomes large, but each charge is too small to fight. Companies learn a cadence: free trial, upgrade nudge, downgrade friction. Revenue stabilizes on attention more than income. Ad-supported free layers bloom. Streaming with ads, apps with ads, games with loot boxes, news behind engagement walls. The product becomes you. The minutes you can give, the clicks you'll trade to avoid paying. As money thins, attention becomes the commodity, and design leans into extraction. Autoplay, infinite scroll, reward streaks. It doesn't feel like spending, but it redirects hours you might have used elsewhere into the machine that monetizes your gaze. Lotteries and gambling find their moment. When upward paths feel narrow, the appeal of a windfall grows. Scratch-off aisles widen. Sports betting apps offer risk-free bonuses that aren't free. Casinos open near towns that lost logistics shifts. It's framed as entertainment, and for many it is, but for some it's a budget strategy born of exhaustion. When you can't save your way to stability, you spin for it. Housing splits along a sharp line. Luxury towers rise downtown with amenities that photograph well. Roof decks, cold plunge, pet spas. Rents target the upper slice of earners and asset-rich downsizers. At the other end, substandard rentals persist. Fees layered on, application fees, pet fees, valet trash, convenience charges for online payments. Build-to-rent empires scale single-family homes at institutional prices, standardizing leases across regions. The middle, starter homes financed by rising wages, thins out. Healthcare and education follow a similar arc. If incomes can't carry price tags, finance fills the space. Student loans stretch degrees across decades. Payment plans and medical credit lines cover deductibles that jumped while wages stalled. Providers adopt revenue cycle software tuned to capture every reimbursable code. Colleges spin micro-credentials and certificates on subscription. The demand looks steady because the bill shifted forward, not because the buyer got stronger. There's a trap here. These models are profitable. They show up as wins in quarterly reports. Lower-income customers are extremely loyal because switching is hard and options are few. But the loyalty is really lock-in. Over time, the ecosystem corrodes the very base it depends on: attention drained by ads, budgets siphoned by fees, future paychecks pre-spent to keep today afloat. The market survives by designing around scarcity rather than reducing it. A renter's month tells the story. She's on a 12-month lease with a smart home, fee she didn't want, a pet rent that isn't a deposit, and a $75 charge for covered parking that used to be included. Her phone plan is bundled with streaming she barely uses, but canceling raises the phone bill. Groceries come from 3 stores because she's chasing discounts that rotate weekly. Healthcare is 2 telehealth subscriptions, cheaper than urgent care, good enough for refills. She pays for cloud storage because her photos matter, and a game pass for her son because it's cheaper than new titles. Every line item is defensible. Together, they grind. For businesses, the strategic shift looks rational. When your customers have less money, you unbundle, you segment, you mine the long tail. You build ad-supported tiers to keep usage alive. You sell essentials at low prices and move margins to accessories. You optimize price discrimination with data. You avoid being the big expense by becoming many small ones. The spreadsheet applauds. The town doesn't. Policy tries patches. Tax credits arrive in spring and vanish by summer. One-time checks make a dent, then inflation nibbles them away. Stimulus can float a quarter, even a year, but the underlying customer is still poorer when the music stops. Companies that grew fat on the free layer and microcharges can't flip back to full price overnight. The model is set. This is the quiet redesign no one voted on. Not a plan, but a drift. The economy orients around making poverty livable, not making prosperity likely. It's stable for a while, stable like a chair with one leg repaired with tape. And when the next shock hits, tape isn't enough. So policy steps in again, louder this time, because Band-Aids can't rebuild a paycheck. Stimulus, QE, and the fake recovery high. Policy doesn't ignore a thinning buyer base. It does what it can do fast, send money and lower rates. During the pandemic, governments tried a radical experiment at scale. They told people to stay home, then wired cash anyway. Payroll support, enhanced unemployment, direct checks, child credits. The goal wasn't growth, it was survival. And for a moment, it worked. Demand didn't collapse. Grocery aisles cleared. Rent got paid. A small shop that would have closed in April stayed open into winter because customers still had cash to spend on curbside pickups and gift cards. On the central bank side, quantitative easing reopened frozen pipes. Buy bonds, compress yields, make mortgages cheaper, keep credit card APRs from spiking into panic. Liquidity flooded markets. Asset prices levitated. A strange split appeared. Wall Street soared while Main Street taped arrows to floors. Your index fund smiled through a mask. Your neighbor delivered takeout to keep the lights on. The short-run success was real. Transfers landed quickly. Poverty measures dipped. Delinquencies fell. For the first time in years, many households saw a checking balance that didn't spark dread. Some paid down cards. Some started tiny savings for the first time. The lesson looked simple. When the loop stalls, you can push income directly into it and keep the flywheel turning. Then the hangover arrived. Savings buffers faded as work hours stayed uneven and prices climbed. Supply snarls and stimulus collided. Goods demand surged into strained ports and thin inventories. Prices jumped, first in cars and appliances, then across baskets. The relief checks that felt generous in March felt small by December because rent rose, groceries crept, and service fees multiplied. Wages rose in some sectors, but unevenly and not always ahead of inflation. The cash that bought time didn't buy a new equilibrium. QE carried its own side effects. Low rates and asset purchases juiced valuations. Housing took off. For owners, paper wealth swelled. For renters, the path to ownership moved further away. Stocks posted records while gig workers stitched multiple apps together to hit last year's income. The asset-income gap widened, and with it the sense that policy had stabilized prices more than lives. Politically, patience frayed. Emergency transfers are popular when sirens are loud. They get complicated when the emergency lingers and sticker shock shows up at the pump and the checkout. Coalitions that supported one-time checks balked at making them permanent. Legislatures split over whether sustained aid invited inflation or simply recognized a new baseline. Households heard the argument and shrugged. They felt the rent due date. They watched groceries ring higher than last month. Underneath, the lesson hardened. Money buys time. It doesn't fix the decoupling between wages and demand. You can patch the income side temporarily with public funds, but unless the wage mass recovers or a new income stream replaces it, the economy tilts back to the same problem once the transfers fade. The loop needs a steady oxygen supply. Tanks work in a crisis. You can't live on a tank. A microstory makes it plain. A neighborhood cafe lost its lunch rush when offices went remote. Stimulus checks and PPP helped them pivot. Bagged breakfasts, patio seating, gift cards that regulars bought to keep staff paid. It stretched into the next season. Then the checks ended, office traffic stayed low, and ingredient costs rose. The shop cut hours and menu items. Loyal customers still came, but fewer and with slimmer orders. By spring, the owner faced a choice: raise prices and lose volume, or hold prices and drain savings. The policy bridge had worked. The other side wasn't built. Critics say inflation proved the aid was too big. Maybe partly, but the structural issue predates the crisis. Automation and bargaining shifts had been thinning paychecks for years. The pandemic exposed it by forcing a live-fire test of income replacement. When the support turned off, the old imbalance reappeared. That's not an indictment of help. It's a diagnosis of reliance. Emergency money asked to do structural work will always disappoint on the second lap. Markets took their cues from the sugar high. Retailers overordered into stimulus demand, and then hit the air pocket. Clearance racks multiplied. Warehouses filled. Discounts plugged the hole for a quarter and trained customers to wait for sales. Investors rotated from growth at any price to profits now, punishing firms that had mistaken temporary demand for a permanent step-up. The correction wasn't just about multiples. It was about misreading a one-time infusion as a trend. Policymakers learned selectively. Automatic stabilizers, like enhanced benefits tied to unemployment rates, look smarter than ad hoc votes. Timely, targeted, and temporary makes sense when the shock is clear. But when the shock is structural, productivity gains captured by capital while labor's share slips, the tools need to evolve. Otherwise, each crisis demands a larger check for a shorter effect. So the experiment leaves us here. We know cash can sustain demand when work can't. We know QE can calm markets and lower borrowing costs. We also know neither rewires the incentives that push firms toward fewer employees per dollar of output. The fake recovery high isn't that stimulus didn't work. It's that it looked like a cure when it was a pause. To stay upright, we need architecture, not adrenaline. And that's where the next acts turn, from patches to design. The fixes, Part 1, Wage and Work Reforms. We've tried adrenaline. Now we test architecture. Start with the oldest lever in the toolkit, wages. Minimums anchor the floor, but static floors sag under moving ceilings. One approach ties wage floors to productivity or profits, a dynamic minimum that rides the economy's real gains. If output per worker rises 10%, the wage floor ratchets up automatically. No waiting for politics. It won't turn every job into a career, but it restores the link the loop depends on. When the pie grows, slices do too. There's a risk. If you force pay up while firms can still swap humans for machines, you could accelerate substitution. That's where design matters. A dynamic wage paired with incentives that reward human employment and the diffusion of tooling. Co-pilots for clerks, not just headcount cuts. Keeps the focus on augmentation, not replacement. Indexing to sector productivity avoids punishing low-margin services with the same bar as superstar tech. Next lever, ownership. If labor's share shrinks, give labor a stake in capital's rise. ESOPs are one path. Employees earn shares that vest with tenure, building wealth as the firm grows. Broad-based equity plans take the tech model. Stock to everyone, not just executives, and normalize it across industries. Profit sharing pushes gains out as cash, not just options. The mechanics vary, bonuses tied to margin, quarterly distributions based on a formula, but the principle is blunt. When efficiency gains arrive, workers see them as income, not just read about them in filings. These plans aren't charity. Companies with profit sharing often see lower turnover, tighter alignment, and a culture that spots waste early because everyone's bonus rides on it. The design challenge is scope. Narrow plans decay into perks for a small core. Broad plans change household budgets. That's the target. A line worker who counts on a quarterly check spends differently. A nurse who knows a year-end pool rewards throughput and quality leans into better workflows. The loop thickens because income becomes partly countercyclical to hourly cuts. Benefits are the third pillar. Tying healthcare and retirement to a single employer made sense when careers were linear. Today's churn turns benefits into cliffs. Portable benefits follow the worker. Health coverage, paid leave accruals, retirement contributions that flow through gigs, contracts, and part-time roles. An independent fund, funded by modest contributions from each hiring entity proportional to hours or income, smooths what the market now makes jagged. That way, a month of reduced hours isn't a health coverage crisis, and a jump between employers doesn't zero out earned leave. Stability keeps demand steady. Time is a lever we underuse. Work time reduction, 4-day weeks, 30-hour norms, spreads available work across more people without cutting weekly income. Pilots show steady or higher productivity per hour, lower burnout, and flat output with fewer mistakes. The math is delicate. You can't ask a firm to pay the same for less if output collapses. But if AI lifts individual throughput, banking some of that gain as time, not layoffs, turns efficiency into social resilience. Households get a day back, care, retraining, rest. The economy gains buyers who aren't exhausted and can actually spend. To make that choice competitive, align incentives. Right now, tax codes often favor machines over people. Depreciation schedules let you recover the cost of equipment quickly. Payroll taxes compound endlessly. Robot taxes are one provocative label. Payroll parity is the quieter fix. Level the after-tax cost of $1 to a worker versus $1 to a machine doing the same function. For example, let firms deduct refundable credits when they retain or reassign workers displaced by automation and invest in training that raises their wage band. Or stretch equipment depreciation in contexts where substitution threatens local employment without offsetting plans. Guard against clumsy outcomes. If you tax robots, firms will rename them software licenses. Better to define parity around the outcome. When a technology reduces labor demand for core tasks, the firm must either share gains through wages, profit sharing, or time, or contribute to a pooled fund that finances training and income support in the affected region. Carrots first. Credits for firms that can show wage-indexed gains or reduced hours with stable pay. Sticks only when the business model banks savings while offloading costs to the town. None of this works if workers can't climb. Training needs paychecks. On-the-job upskilling beats classroom-only promises. Structure it like an apprenticeship for the AI era. A paid track where employees move from task doers to system supervisors, from rote to quality, from entry to judgment. Employers get retention. Workers get a raise that reflects new leverage. Pair it with portable credentials, real assessments, not fluff, that travel across firms. The goal isn't certificates, it's bargaining power backed by skill. Will these reforms stop AI from compressing labor's share? No, they temper it. They turn one-way efficiency into a two-way street. They buy time for households to adapt without falling off a cliff, and they keep demand alive while supply engines rev. They also reveal the limit. Even with stronger floors, broader ownership, portable benefits, shorter weeks, and parity incentives, a world where small teams plus models outperform big teams without them still pushes wages toward a thinner base. That's the point of the next step. When jobs can't carry the entire demand load, income has to flow through another channel. The choice isn't between markets and transfers. It's between markets starved of customers and markets fed by a redesigned baseline. We've strengthened work. Next, we look beyond it. Income that arrives without a time card, with rules that keep prices sane and dignity intact. The Fixes, Part 2. Income without jobs, UBI and beyond. If the paycheck can't carry the load, you need a second artery. Start with the cleanest version, a universal basic income. One flat cash payment to every adult, no forms, no means tests, no gimmicks. It stabilizes demand by guaranteeing that every cart has something in it, every month, regardless of a firm's staffing plan. The idea isn't theoretical anymore. City pilots showed reduced financial stress, better mental health, and higher job search intensity because people could afford to look for a good match instead of grabbing the first thing. Scale matters. A modest UBI, just enough to cover basics, doesn't erase work, it makes work selective. The grocery clerk can refuse a toxic schedule because the rent won't implode in a week. A freelance designer takes a risk on a client because the lights stay on if the invoice is slow. That bargaining shift puts a floor under wages in the low end and reduces exploitative churn. Demand steadies because households aren't falling through trapdoors every time hours wobble. An alternative with similar intent is a negative income tax. Think of it as an automatic top-up through the tax system. Below a certain earnings threshold, the government pays you instead of you paying taxes. As you earn more, the payment tapers. It's universal in eligibility but targeted by design, cheapening the total bill relative to a full UBI while still building a reliable base of spending where it's most needed. Earned income credits are the cousin we already know. Expanding and smoothing them monthly, not yearly, turns them into a quasi-UBI with work incentives intact. The criticism lands fast. How do you pay for it? One answer is to tax what's growing. A value-added tax on AI-amplified outputs spreads the burden across the consumption enabled by automation. Small rates raise real money precisely because the base is broad: software subscriptions, ad-stack platforms, AI-augmented services. Pair it with exemptions on essentials like groceries and children's clothing to keep it progressive, and direct the revenue into a visible dividend so voters see the loop. Automation builds the VAT base. The VAT funds everyone's baseline. Capital gains and wealth are another base. When productivity gains concentrate in assets, skim a piece and recirculate it. It's not punishment, it's a maintenance fee for the system that makes those gains possible. Courts, roads, education, research, the rule of law. A modest surcharge on extreme gains. combined with closing obvious avoidance gaps, funds a significant fraction of an income floor. The politics are hard, the math isn't. Then there are sovereign wealth and data dividends. Alaska's oil fund taught a simple lesson. When a shared resource gets monetized, pay citizens a cut and watch demand stabilize in remote places with thin job markets. Norway's fund extended it to financial assets. In a data economy, the training fuel for models, our clicks, writings, images, and behaviors, is a collective input. A national or state-level data dividend, pooled and paid out, maps that reality. It won't replace wages alone, but layered with other streams, it adds resilience. Compute levies target the choke point. Frontier models chew electricity, chips, and specialized infrastructure. A narrow levy on high-tier compute runs. Threshold to avoid taxing hobbyists. Captures value where concentration lives. Earmark it for the income floor and for capacity expansions in housing, energy, and healthcare, so new cash meets new supply. That pairing blunts inflation and makes the program feel like a trade, not a transfer. Universality is the political armor. Means-tested benefits leak participation through stigma, paperwork, and cliffs that punish earning more. A universal payment avoids the trap. Everyone gets it. Taxes claw more back from the top through the return. That simplicity buys durability. People protect benefits they receive, and universality builds a cross-class coalition that survives elections. But the classic worry is prices. If you hand out cash, do landlords just raise rent? Do grocers nudge stickers upward and swallow the spread? Without guardrails, yes, some of that happens. That's why design matters. Income floors must be timed and sized alongside supply expansions in the bottleneck sectors. Pre-permitting bundles for infill housing, transmission fast tracks for clean energy, hospital capacity in underserved regions, training scholarships that actually put nurses in clinics. More real stuff reduces the temptation and ability to price gouge. Another worry is moral hazard. If income arrives without work, do people stop working? Pilots suggest the opposite for most. People stabilize, then choose better jobs or education. Still, taper rates matter. A negative income tax or earned income boost that phases out slowly avoids punishing extra hours. A universal base with optional earn more, keep more bonuses, say tax credits, tied to verified skill gains or community service, keeps the latter attractive without turning the base into a trap. Funding credibility is the hinge. Earmark flows, publish dashboards, and run automatic stabilizers that expand payments when unemployment rises and shrink them when it falls. Build sunset reviews into the law every few years with independent audits of inflation, participation, and labor supply. If a sector overheats, redirect a slice of dividend revenue into targeted supply investments. Make it boring, rules-based, and transparent so households plan and markets trust the anchor. Then give it texture people can feel. A monthly deposit that hits the same day for everyone becomes part of the town's rhythm. Landlords adjust lease terms because missed rent plummets. Local shops see steadier receipts. Startups find customers who can try a new service without fear. Risk appetites rise among the non-wealthy because failure doesn't mean eviction. That's not utopia. That's demand insurance. The last piece is narrative. Don't sell it as charity. Sell it as a dividend from a smarter, richer economy that uses less labor per dollar of output. If machines and models do more of the work, the gains must flow through two channels: lower prices and direct incomes. Prices move, but unevenly and slowly where supply is tight. Direct incomes move cleanly. Together, they keep capitalism's promise. Producers meet buyers with money in their hands. Guardrails: inflation, moral hazard, and market design. If income flows widen while jobs thin, the next fear is simple. Do prices just chase the cash? Guardrails turn a check into a system. Start with supply-side pairing. An income floor without more housing, energy, and healthcare is a bathtub with the drain clogged. So build capacity first and alongside. Pre-clear infill housing in transit zones, legalize duplexes and backyard units, and make approvals automatic when designs meet a pattern book. Tie dividend rollouts in a region to visible housing starts and clinic expansions. Cash meets beds and doors, not scarcity. Energy is the same. Models eat power. If we fund income from the AI boom, earmark a slice to accelerate grid upgrades and generation, clean baseload, transmission corridors, and storage. When kilowatts are abundant, price spikes have fewer excuses. Healthcare needs staffing, not just buildings. Scholarships and paid residencies for nurses and techs, with mobility stipends, move labor to where capacity is missing. Pair that with scope of practice reforms that let trained professionals work at the top of license. More care delivered per hour keeps medical inflation from swallowing the dividend. Next, target slack. Invest where supply can respond quickly. Modular housing factories, outpatient clinics, distributed solar, childcare microcenters. If you aim cash at sectors that can scale within quarters, the inflation impulse stays muted because sellers compete. Publish a heat map of bottlenecks, rents, wait times, childcare deserts, and steer capital there. Treat it like economic triage. Make the stabilizers automatic. Tie baseline income, wage boosts, and training vouchers to unemployment and output gaps. When joblessness rises, payments step up on a formula. When it falls, they step down. No midnight votes. Households can plan. Markets see a rule, not a whim. Add region-specific triggers, so places hit by automation shocks get extra flow fast without waiting for national averages to notice. Keep the price anchor credible. Central banks can run inflation targeting or price level targeting with transparency, while fiscal policy runs the income system. The key is coordination. If stabilizers expand during a downturn, monetary policy doesn't panic at a temporary price bump caused by supply repair. When the economy overheats, stabilizers retract while rates lean. Publish a joint reaction function, so neither arm surprises the other. Work incentives need design, not slogans. A universal base avoids cliffs. Layer on a slow taper for supplements, negative income tax style, so each extra dollar earned still nets more in your pocket. Add earned options. Skill credits for passing industry-recognized assessments. Wage insurance that tops up earnings after moving from a declining sector to a lower-paid entry role in a growing one. And civic work marketplaces where communities post paid projects, trail repairs, elder tech support, tutoring, that offer dignified, flexible hours. None of this is forced. It's a menu that makes work attractive. Accountability keeps trust. Treat the system like infrastructure with dashboards the public can read. Monthly reports on inflation in targeted sectors, payment volumes, labor force participation, and vacancy rates. Independent audits every 2 years with a sunset review that forces Congress to reauthorize based on objective outcomes. If a metric slips, say, rents rise faster than income in pilot regions, automatic valves redirect a slice of revenue into local supply programs until the spread closes. On the firm side, align behavior with the social goal. Offer refundable credits for verifiable augmentation. Documented cases where AI lifted throughput and the company shared gains through higher wages, reduced hours with stable pay, or profit sharing. If a company replaces roles and banks' savings while prices in bottleneck sectors flare, contributions to a regional adjustment fund scale up. Carrots dominate, but the stick exists for abusive arbitrage. Guard against arbitrage in finance, too. If the base income attracts predatory lending, cap APRs tied to a benchmark and require plain language disclosures on BNPL and subscription traps. Encourage basic accounts at regulated banks with automatic sweep features, rent, utilities, and savings, so the dividend doesn't evaporate into fees. Give households a default savings slice they can adjust, not opt-in complexity that most will skip. Narrative matters. Frame the rules as market design, not command and control. We're protecting the buyer's side that the seller's side depends on. The promise to firms is stability, predictable demand, fewer panics, customers who can try new products. The promise to workers is dignity, income continuity, time to retrain, and prices that reflect real competition, not bottlenecks. Finally, make it feel local. Pilot city compacts where income, housing permits, clinic staffing, and grid upgrades launch together under one brand. Residents see cranes, hiring fares, and deposits land in the same quarter. When people can point to the new daycare and the lower wait alongside the payment, they understand the trade. That understanding is the real guardrail. It keeps the system honest because the town knows what it should feel like when it's working. Power, ownership, and the AI dividend. Follow the money and you find the servers. Compute, data, and distribution sit behind a handful of doors. Hyperscale clouds lease the muscle. Foundation model labs train on mountains of text and images. App stores and ad networks gate the audience. When the stack concentrates, so does the leverage. A startup with a clever workflow still pays taxes to the gatekeepers: API calls, traffic tolls, placement fees. The AI dividend, the surplus unlocked by models, routes first through those pipes. Concentration isn't just market share. It's choke points. If a few firms can raise API prices, restrict model weights, or rewrite terms, entire sectors pivot on someone else's memo. That fragility undermines the promise of abundance. Abundance isn't just lots of output. It's lots of access to the means of making it. Without access, we get a world where the tools are miraculous and the permissions are scarce. Public options cut against that. Open models, weights available under licenses that allow commercial use with safety guardrails, spread capability beyond a handful of balance sheets. Public clouds, regional compute co-ops or national infrastructure priced at cost. Lower floor costs for schools, clinics, local media, and small manufacturers that can't swallow enterprise rates. Interoperability rules force dominant platforms to play nice. Export your data, switch providers without penalty, plug third-party tools into core workflows. The result isn't anti-business. It's pro-competition. You protect the path for the next great company to start without begging the last one for permission. Ownership reform is the next lever. If the dividend pools near the core, give the perimeter a claim. Citizen stakes in AI platforms can be structured like index-like funds seeded with a slice of compute and model-driven profits. Think of it as a commons royalty. Platform scale relies on shared inputs, language, code snippets, public research, creative works. A small, broad slice flows back to the people whose contributions, past and present, make the models useful. It's not a windfall, it's alignment. Commons-based licenses extend that logic. If models are trained on open-source code, research, and public datasets, license terms can require reciprocity. Contribute improvements, disclose safety evaluations, and share fine-tunes back into the commons when they rely heavily on public inputs. That reciprocity prevents enclosure, private moats built on public bricks. It keeps the knowledge flywheel spinning in public, not locked behind NDAs. Data labor gives communities a direct line to value. Individuals and institutions, schools, hospitals, cities, hold datasets that improve models for healthcare, education, and transit. Instead of scraping in the dark or paying one-off vendors, build data trusts that negotiate access, set privacy and misuse rules, and collect royalties on behalf of contributors. A diabetes registry that lifts diagnostic accuracy should fund better local clinics. A transit dataset that cuts commute times should support the city that cleaned and curated it. Pay the stewards, not just the scrapers. Governance turns principles into practice. Independent audits test bias, safety, and impact before models scale into high-stakes domains. Transparent training disclosures show major dataset categories, upstream licenses, and redaction policies for sensitive content. Liability shifts from buyer beware to builder accountable when outputs harm, defamation, medical error, financial advice that crosses into regulated territory. Safety standards evolve like aviation. Incident reports, near-miss databases, continuous improvement, and consequences. Antitrust is the blunt tool that still matters. Break up vertical bundling where distribution locks out rivals. An app store pushing its own model while throttling competitors. A cloud tying cheap compute to exclusive APIs. Enforce data portability so users can leave without losing history. Mandate fair access to critical chips and hosting for qualified firms to reduce geopolitical and corporate single points of failure. Competition doesn't guarantee broad prosperity, but concentration guarantees narrow control. Why does any of this tie back to demand? Because ownership and access decide who captures the AI dividend. If the surplus sits on a few balance sheets, we run a smaller, shinier economy that sells to itself. If the surplus spreads, through broader equity, citizen stakes, data dividends, and open access, the buyer base thickens. People spend when they share in the upside. Firms invest when customers can pay. Power design becomes market design. There's a rural angle here. A county hospital with a public option model fine-tuned on regional data can raise quality without buying an enterprise bundle. A farm co-op that uses shared compute to run yield models isn't at the mercy of a single vendor's pricing. A library that hosts an open model for homework help gives every kid a tutor, not just the ones with premium subscriptions. These aren't freebies. They're paths to productivity that don't require surrendering local agency. critics worry about chilling innovation. The fear is that royalties, audits, and interoperability will slow the frontier. The answer is calibration. Keep thresholds high. Reserve heavy compliance for high-impact systems in finance, healthcare, law, and infrastructure. Let tinkering stay light. Subsidize safe open models so small teams can build without begging. Make the default competitive and the exceptional accountable. Then connect it to the paycheck. Profit sharing inside AI-heavy firms should be the norm, not the PR exception. If a model triples throughput in a claims department, a portion of those gains becomes employee bonuses or reduced hours with stable pay. If a publisher's newsroom uses AI to expand coverage, staff get upside through equity pools. Scale this through tax credits for documented sharing and reporting requirements that show the split between capital returns, customer price reductions, and worker gains. Shine light, reward balance. Ownership, access, and governance sound like policy talk. On payday, they feel like deposit amounts, subscription prices, and the dignity to say yes or no to work. Get this wrong, and the market shrinks to its owners. Get it right, and the dividend doesn't trickle, it circulates. Next, we step closer to the ground and see what that circulation feels like in a household, a clinic, a warehouse, and a main street when the deposit actually lands. A life under the New Deal, microstories. The deposit hits before sunrise. A former cashier opens her budgeting app and exhales. 2 years ago, the grocery chain went all in on kiosks. She bounced between temp gigs and a weekend cleaning route. Now she's part-time at a library help desk. Hours steady thanks to a city stipend tied to community hours, plus a monthly data dividend routed through her state's Digital Commons Fund. Her rent auto-debits on time. She schedules a dentist visit she delayed for a year and applies for a paid credential to run early literacy programs. She still uses coupons, but the fear that a missed shift means a missed rent is gone. Across town, a low-slung brick building hums at night. The sign reads Compute Cooperative. The county pooled grants, a foundation check, and a state compute levy rebate to stand up affordable GPU time. Inside, a 2-person startup fine-tunes an open medical model on anonymized clinic data governed by a local health data trust. The co-op manager, a former IT admin laid off during consolidation, teaches them how to optimize runs cheaply. In a corner, teens tinker with robotics after class. The co-op's board includes the library director, a nurse, a farmer, and a high school teacher. Fees are posted on a whiteboard. They're low enough that experiments don't require permission from a distant investor. On a warehouse floor, the week is 5 days, but the hours are 6. Management cut to a 30-hour standard after a union vote and a state credit for verified augmentation. Robots handle most of the picks. Human teams handle exceptions and quality. Pay didn't drop. Profit sharing makes up the difference. When throughput spikes, a quarterly bonus shows up, the exact formula printed on pay stubs. A veteran remembers when overtime made the mortgage. Now Fridays end before school pickups. He makes soccer practice and still covers the car payment. He uses a training stipend to learn systems monitoring. He's not scared of the machines, he's paired with them. In a clinic with sun-bleached blinds, a care worker taps her ID on a tablet. Her benefits follow her from client to client. The portable account logs hours, accrues paid leave, and tops up retirement with each agency contract. A city transit pass appears in her app because home visits are essential work. An AI assistant drafts care notes and translates instructions for families. She isn't running between agencies to keep coverage active. She picks cases that fit her week and says no when a schedule would break her back. She's not rich, she's steady. A parent in a small apartment leans over a kitchen table, laptop open to a course portal. The universal base covers groceries and utilities without panic. The data dividend pays the phone. He's retraining in building energy systems through a paid certificate at the community college, where the lab is stocked with loaned gear from a manufacturer eager for certified installers. He used to drive rideshare nights. Now he studies then sleeps. On Saturdays, he joins a civic work marketplace gig setting up solar at a church. The work pays, the hours are flexible, and the stipend counts toward an earn more, keep more bonus at tax time. His daughter sprawls nearby with math homework and a library tablet that runs a local tune tutor. They high-five when she nails fractions. At the diner, receipts smoothed out. The owner sees fewer booms and busts, more Tuesdays that pay the bills. The calendar of community payments, income floor day, profit sharing week, training stipends, creates a predictable rhythm. She orders pastries from the bakery next door, where the baker's loan came through a community lender that underwrites with a model trained on local books, audited and open. The loan rate is fair because defaults fell after deposit day got reliable. There are frictions. A landlord tried to hike rent after the income floor launched. The city's fast-track housing permits brought new units online, and a public dashboard pressured big hikes back down. A subscription company tested a new fee. State consumer rules forced plain language disclosures and easy cancellation. A model in the co-op failed an audit. The board paused it until bias tests passed. People grumbled, then moved on. Ask them what changed. They don't say AI dividend. They say time. Time to say no to bad shifts. Time to see a doctor. Time to study. Time to coach. They say dignity, the quiet kind that comes from paying on the first, from choosing work instead of scrambling for it. They still worry. Prices still move. Machines still get better. But when the deposit lands, when the schedule respects the body, when ownership shows up as a number on a statement, markets feel like a place they can afford to stand. And that makes the next step possible. The transition playbook, from panic to policy. We can't jump from drift to design with a slogan. We need a plan that moves like software, iterative, measurable, reversible when it misfires. Start with phased pilots at city and state scale. Choose places with clear shocks, automation-heavy corridors, logistics hubs, clinic deserts. Publish baselines first: rents, wait times, childcare slots, grid capacity, labor force participation, small business receipts. Then switch on a bundle, not a fragment. Income floor deposits, portable benefits, training stipends, profit-sharing credits, and supply accelerators for housing, energy, and clinics. Give each pilot a stop-loss. If rents in targeted zip codes outrun incomes by a set margin, automatic rent vouchers kick in while permitting accelerates. Fund it narrowly at first. Levy a small fee on frontier compute runs above a threshold and on high-volume AI API revenues. Earmark the funds to pilots and publish a ledger down to the zip code. As outcomes stabilize, lower evictions, shorter waits, steadier retail receipts, ramp to broader bases. A modest VAT on AI-augmented services with exemptions for essentials, plus a surcharge on extraordinary capital gains. Keep every dollar labeled. Voters will tolerate complexity if they can follow the money. Build supply before flipping every switch. Fast-track infill permits with pattern book approvals. Pre-clear grid interconnects for community solar and storage. Fund nurse residencies and childcare microcenters with tuition plus stipends. Line up factory slots for modular housing and require municipalities to accept certified designs within 60 days. The trick is temporal. Deposits and demand arrive alongside cranes and hiring, not 6 quarters earlier. Make stabilizers automatic. Tie the income floor to local unemployment and hours worked. If automation trims shifts in a county, an extra layer of deposits triggers within weeks, not legislative sessions. When conditions improve, the extra layer fades by formula. Keep discretion for genuine surprises, but let rules handle the baseline so mayors aren't begging capitals for relief that arrives after the shop closes. Set hard metrics and publish them like weather. A public dashboard tracks 5 dials: shelter inflation, healthcare wait times, grid reliability, labor participation, and small business cash flow. Add qualitative check-ins. Panel surveys on financial stress, schedule control, and willingness to retrain. If a dial misbehaves, the pilot adjusts. More supply spend, tweak taper rates, different training mix, on a timeline the public can see. Recruit a weird coalition. Labor wants portable benefits and profit-sharing credits. Small businesses want predictable customers and help with augmentation, not layoffs. Consumers want prices that don't lurch. Technologists want open models, cheap compute, and clear rules. Community colleges want paid pipelines. Put them in one room with shared targets, and let each win something concrete. Brand it locally. National fights abstract. City compacts win because the bakery can point to the crane and the deposit day. Messaging matters. Don't sell emergency charity. Sell growth through inclusion. Frame it as protecting the buyer base that fuels innovation. Call it demand insurance funded by the new surplus from AI. Explain the trade. We lighten the payroll squeeze by sharing efficiency gains as income and time, and we prevent price flares by building supply. Simplicity beats theory. Deposits land. Rents stop spiking. Clinics open on time. You keep more when you learn more. Expect friction. Some landlords will test hikes. Answer with permits, competition, and targeted vouchers. No moralizing, just options. Some firms will bank automation savings without sharing. Offer carrots first, credits for documented wage gains, reduced hours with steady pay, or profit sharing, and escalate to regional adjustment contributions only when metrics show extraction. Some pilots will overheat a sector. Hit the valve, pause deposit growth there, and redirect revenue to supply until prices cool. Train at scale while paying the bills. Apprenticeships for the AI era must be paid, portable, and evidence-based. Federal and state funds cover half the wage for trainees. Employers cover the rest in exchange for retention credits. Certifications come from industry boards that publish item banks, pass rates, and job outcomes. Community colleges get performance funding when completers earn more within a year. Move fast, measure harder. Sequence nationally after you prove locally. Year 1, 5 city pilots, 1 rural region, 1 tribal nation. Year 2, 15 more, diversified by economy type. Year 3, interstate compacts, standardized playbooks, and data schemas. Year 4, a federal floor launches with automatic stabilizers, local add-ons persist. Throughout, publish a broken promises list, commitments missed, fixes applied. So trust grows from admitting errors, not hiding them. Finally, anchor the politics. Universality protects durability. Automatic rules protect speed. Visible supply protects confidence. Put sunset reviews on a timer, every 3 years. Independent audits recommend recalibration on payouts, levies, and guardrails. If outcomes slip, scale back. If outcomes beat targets, expand. The point isn't perfection. It's an operating system that keeps markets wide enough for buyers to meet sellers with real budgets, even as teams get smaller and models get better. So what does this mean for capitalism? It means choosing whether efficiency serves a broad market or shrinks it to its owners. We can design for circulation, not concentration. The transition is the test. Resolution plus broader meaning. AI exposed a simple truth. If paychecks thin while output multiplies, markets starve themselves. Redesign decides whether abundance circulates or concentrates. If you want the blueprint for funding the dividend without igniting prices, subscribe and share this. Then watch our follow-up on building supply first, so cash meets capacity and the economy breathes through both lungs.